बैंक नहीं बना पाए वहाँ। क्यों नहीं बना पाए? इच्छा नहीं थी, क्योंकि जब तक लोग इनके सामने गिड़गिड़ाते नहीं तब तक इनको वोट मिलता नहीं। आप कल्पना कर सकती हैं कि ये ऐसा खानदान है, इनकी राजनीति ऐसी है कि गरीब को इन मूलभूत सेवाओं से वंचित रखो। ताकत थी, साधन था, प्रोसेस में, पॉलिसी में इनका सहयोग था, चाहते तो कर सकते थे, जानबूझकर नहीं किया।
लेकिन आप ये भी मानेंगी कि आपके वहाँ जाने तक उनको ही अमेठी चुनती थी, उनको ही रायबरेली
ऑप्शन नहीं था, शायद ऑप्शन नहीं था टेनेसिटी का। और मैं बता दूं आनंद, ये कोई आसान लड़ाई नहीं है। मैं 2014 में जब पहली बार लड़ने गई थी, मुझे रहने को किसी ने जगह नहीं दी, मुझे सीमेंट के गोदाम के ऊपर एक कमरे में रहना पड़ा, इतना खौफ था उस खानदान का। मैं जब 2014 में पहली बार गई तब वहां पर 2 लोग खड़े होने के लिए राजी नहीं थे। प्रेम की भाषा नहीं बोली जाती थी, खौफ की भाषा थी अमेठी में। आप अगर कभी, मैंने कहा गांधी जी से, शरद यादव जी तो अब नहीं हैं, उनसे पूछिए जिन्होंने अमेठी में कभी चुनाव लड़ा है। राजमोहन गांधी जी का आप इतिहास उठाकर देख लीजिए, लोगों को निर्वस्त्र किया गया है, गोलियां मारी गई हैं। अमेठी के विपक्षी कैंडिडेट पे आप इतिहास उठाकर देख लीजिए, गोली चली है भाई साहब। तो ये आज किसी को लगता है इन हाइंडसाइट कि अरे स्मृति ईरानी ने कोई सास बहू किया होगा इसलिए वोट पड़ गया। वहाँ 1,20,000 घरों में तो पहली बार बिजली मोदी ने दी है। आप बिलीव करेंगे, जहाँ 50 साल उनका राज था वहाँ 60% घरों में कभी बिजली नहीं थी। तो ऐसे इलाके में पहली बार चुनाव लड़ना कोई साधारण चुनाव नहीं था वो।
तो जब आपको कहा गया कि आप वहाँ चुनाव लड़िए, या अब आपको कहा गया है कि अब कहीं ना कहीं आपने अमेठी को अपना घर बना लिया, आपका गृह प्रवेश, घर बनाया है, गृह प्रवेश हुआ है, उसकी आपको बधाइयाँ, लेकिन उसमें भी आपको 5 साल लग गए।
हाँ,
तो
वो अटल जी की कविता है ना, हार नहीं मानूंगा, रार नहीं ठानूंगा, काल के कपाल पर लिखता हूँ मिटाता हूँ, गीत नया गाता हूँ।
तो अब
तो जिसके पास नेता ऐसे हों, जिनकी कविताएं ऐसी हों, तो जोशीले होना उनके लिए संभव ही है।
तो आपको ये खला नहीं, थोड़ा सा मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ कि मुझे ही क्यों भेजा गया अमेठी?
बिल्कुल नहीं, मुझे तो ये अच्छा लगा कि उस खानदान को धूल चटाने के लिए पूरी पार्टी में मेरा ही नाम मिला था।
अच्छा, लेकिन
मुझे
आप
किसी चीज का मलाल नहीं आनंद जी। हाँ,
आप कॉन्फिडेंट हैं कि वो नहीं आएंगे?
आ भी जाए तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। और मैं बड़ी विनम्रता से ये कह रही हूँ, क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है कि उनकी आजमाइश नहीं हुई है, भाई बहन दोनों की। और विनम्रता का भाव इसलिए रखती हूँ रुबिका जी, क्योंकि 2022 का विधानसभा का चुनाव हुआ, जहाँ पर दोनों के दोनों मुखातिब हुए थे अमेठी से। और तब गांधी परिवार के उस सदस्य के पास उत्तर प्रदेश में सीट लड़ाने का दायित्व था। और 5 विधानसभा की सीटें हैं अमेठी में, और जो 4 विधानसभा क्षेत्र में दोनों ने मिलकर पग धरे थे, वहाँ चारों विधानसभा क्षेत्रों में कांग्रेस की जमानत जब्त हो चुकी है, 22 में है। 2019 में कांग्रेस पार्टी अकेली नहीं लड़ी थी, अखिलेश जी, मायावती जी संग उनके रहे थे, तीनों ने मिलके मेरे सामने चुनाव लड़ा था भाजपा के सामने। तब कांग्रेस के पास लगभग 4,30,000 वोट थे इस गठबंधन के पास। अगर आप 22 का चुनाव उठाकर देख लें तो कांग्रेस के पास अमेठी लोकसभा क्षेत्र में 22 में सिर्फ 1,20,000 लगभग वोट बच गए थे। मतलब 19 से लेकर 22 तक के बीच में 3 लाख वोट उनके पहले ही हम कम कर चुके थे। अब सोचे, जब 2 सालों में या 3 सालों की अवधि में 3 लाख वोट कम हो गया, 22 से लेकर 24 तक अब क्या हश्र हो रहा होगा। इसीलिए तो जब यात्रा लेकर आए थे, जनता तो छोड़िए, उनका कार्यकर्ता भी नहीं था वहाँ।
कहते हैं कि कंफ्यूजन था, क्योंकि वो अलायंस जमा नहीं था उस वक्त,
ऐसा है आनंद जी,
आए कि नहीं
मैं आभारी हूँ कि आपने ये कहा। तो नेता भी कंफ्यूज्ड है, अलायंस भी कंफ्यूज्ड है, कार्डर भी कंफ्यूज्ड है, मर्सीफुली देश को कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं है।
तो आप मानती हैं कि देश को कंफ्यूजन नहीं है? 370 प्लस बीजेपी 400 पार।
मेरा मंतव्य और सब छोड़ दें, यहाँ पूछ लीजिए।
आप पूछिए।
नहीं, आप पूछ लीजिए, मैं तो फिर फेयर, ये मेरी ओर से प्रश्न नहीं होगा। यहाँ पर कौन मानता है राहुल गांधी इज द होप फॉर 1.3 बिलियन पीपल? एक तो 1.4 बिलियन भी नहीं लिखा है।
चलिए शो ऑफ हैंड्स कर लेते हैं. How many agree with Mr. P. Chidambaram?
अब बताओ कौन राजा है, जनता की ईवीएम?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं. अगर आपको अगर कोई खौफ है तो खौफ ना रखे. बेखौफी से कोई ऐसा है जो पी चिदम्बरम साहब के ट्वीट से और राहुल गांधी.
अरे मुझसे ज्यादा तो रूबिका जी पी चिदम्बरम का खौफ है, इसलिए कि वो वापस सत्ता में ना आए, ताकि जो लुटा था वो वापस लुटेरों के पथ पे ना चला जाए. मैं आपको कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज आपकी अनुमति से एक चीज करना चाहती हूँ. जब हम कहते हैं द लॉस्ट डेकेड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ 2004 से लेकर 14 तक का लॉस हुआ है. जब जब कांग्रेस की अध्यक्षता में इस देश में, अगर आप विशेष रूप से उनकी परफॉर्मेंस देखें, आज हम मोदी जी की चर्चा करते हैं, जब अटल जी प्रधानमंत्री बने थे, उनका जो कार्यकाल था, अगर बैंकिंग की बात करें, ठीक, बैंकिंग का जब उनको इनहेरिट किया उन्होंने एनपीएस, वो लगभग 16% या 17% था. जब उन्होंने ऑफिस छोड़ा 2004 में, एनपीए लगभग 7% तक आया. तब तक वो ला चुके थे नीचे. कांग्रेस के राज में 2012 पे आप जाइए तो वापस एनपीए 12-13% तक बढ़ चुका था. जब अटल जी ने अपनी सरकार छोड़ी थी और यूपीए की सरकार आई थी, आपका एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर ग्रो हो रहा था 9% पे, आपका सर्विस सेक्टर ग्रो हो रहा था 7% पे, आपका ओवरऑल इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ था 8% पे. आपके जो एडवांसेस देती है पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स, वो थे लगभग 6 लाख करोड़ रुपए पे. यूपीए का अगर आप आज भी नंबर उठाकर देख लें, यूपीए ने 2012 तक, 4 से लेकर 12 तक, आपको पता है कितना एडवांसेस दे दिया था पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक से? 39 लाख करोड़, जिसमें से 3.8 लाख करोड़ व बैड एसेट्स एंड नेवर डिक्लेयर्ड. ये खामियाजा किसने भुगता? देश ने भुगता. तो इसीलिए कह रही हूँ, उनकी परंपरा है देश को लूटने की. और जो 10 साल मोदी जी के रहे हैं, वो सिर्फ पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ परफॉर्मेंस के लिए नहीं रहे हैं, पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ रेवोल्यूशन भी रहे हैं. दिस होल फैमिली हैज बीन टेस्टेड ऑन इट्स मेटल, ऑन इट्स पॉलिटिकल परफॉर्मेंस एंड इनपुट्स. And the best test, I think, for the country was when COVID came.
Revelation की बात करें तो even this government is blamed for not revealing numbers. Statistics are not out. The actual numbers are not out.
But statistics don't endear themselves to the opposition. That's a different issue altogether.
But you would also agree that
they may not like the statistics. They don't like the growth numbers. Why would they? They are fighting on a negative.
No, the allegation is that
yes, the numbers are
the growth numbers are dressed up. Yes, there is growth, but there some of it is dressed up.
Anand, let's give me a small interjection. Okay, 30 crore mudra loans given to only women, 8 crore loans given to youngsters, first-time entrepreneurs. Okay, out of the 30 crore loans given to women, NPA is less than 2.5%, which means these loans got serviced, business got done, there was a profit. That's why the loans got serviced. So are those 30 crore women who got the loan, who did the enterprise, are they not employed? They are, right? 8 crore new entrepreneurs. Obviously they serviced their loans. Obviously they paid back. So were they not employed? 38 crores तो मैंने आपको यहाँ बैठ के गिना दिया है.
Yeah, but you know, with respect to your ministries,
banks are
women and child care development, and also the minority ministry. Two aspects let's talk about. Malnourishment, we still rank one of the highest in terms of malnourishment.
Who's ranking us? Who's ranking us?
What?
If you're a number cruncher, there's a public data available on a tracker called Poshan Tracker.
Yes.
What does Poshan Tracker track? 75 million children below the age of 6.
Correct.
Right? How do they track? On WHO standards. Who does the third-party evaluation? The World Bank. Whether the testing methodology is correct or not. Evidence is available today for 75 million children. When did the Congress last compute it? There was no such evidence available before.
The other aspect is of food security. If 80 crore people were not being given the food security, which is also being extended for the next 2 years.
So basically what Rahul Gandhi wants,
you'd still have a large number of people.
What Rahul Gandhi wants is people should not get food. Is that your position?
You'd still have a large number of people who would be struggling around the poverty line or would be going hungry.
So let me contextualize it for you.
Everything is not as rosy as it is painted.
And I'll tell you why. 13.5 crore Indians came out of multi-dimensional poverty only because of Modi's health initiatives. What are those health initiatives? Primary being Ayushman Bharat Yojana. For every Indian, especially the poor, who got 1, 2 and the booster dose free, how much was it in the normal market? If you went to buy the vaccine, $600 per shot. So 1800 rupees, let's say. If you don't take the booster shot, 1200 rupees. In a family size of 4 people, how much would have that been for a poor family? Second, if you look only at the Ayushman Bharat numbers from October 2023, 5 crore 70 lakh hospital admissions worth 70,000 crore rupees done. Do you compute the cost of the burden on the GDP if this health support was not given to these people? For instance, when we talk about sanitation, we talk about 11 crore toilets built.
Yes.
I will take you back to this very channel. In the year 2010-12 ke beech mein, this channel has carried a report about what? 6% negative impact on India's GDP because of lack of sanitation. So when Modi gives a sanitation facility, it has a positive impact on the growth numbers. When Modi gives ration free to poor, it not only helps them come out of multidimensional poverty, it sustains them out of multidimensional poverty. It also fires up rural consumption, hence keeping industry and manufacturing alive.
स्मृति जी, ये जो कॉन्फिडेंस आपका है, आप यकीन के साथ कह सकती हैं कि नंबर्स में भी झलकेगा, और अगर हाँ तो उत्तर प्रदेश में आप 80 में से कितनी सीटें लाएंगी इस बार?
देखिए, मैं ना योगेंद्र यादव जैसी कोई सेफोलॉजिस्ट हूँ, ना मैं राहुल गांधी जैसी कोई बुद्धिजीवी हूँ. मैं आपको इतना ही अश्योर कर सकती हूँ कि जो मोदी ने कहा है वो पत्थर की लकीर है. एनडीए अब की बार 400 पार.
समय अल्प है, लास्ट के 30 और 10-15 सेकंड एक्स्ट्रा, तो थोड़ा सा हम 5 शब्द आपको बताएंगे.
रैपिड फायर है
जैसा है कि व्हाटएवर कम्स टू
नहीं
योर
पता था एक दिन आनंद नरसिम्हन करण जौहर का पूरा स्वरूप धारण करेंगे.
देखिए, ये एक नाता तो रहा है कहीं ना कहीं
करण जौहर से.
नहीं एंटरटेनमेंट से. और करण जौहर अच्छे मित्र हैं, ऐसा नहीं है, पर मैं आपसे
मित्र भी हैं.
हाँ?
अच्छा,
तो
you see your journalist friends, all their eyebrows are going up. Yes.
तो हम आपके सामने शब्द रखेंगे. आपके मन में जो पहला विचार आएगा वो आप 1 या 2 शब्दों में या 1 लाइन में खत्म करेंगे. तो हम शुरू करते हैं.
हाँ, पहले
ओके. शक्ति.
दुर्गा. देश.
राहुल, नाम तो सुना होगा.
ये तो आपको उनसे कहना चाहिए था. स्मृति हूँ. अगर आप वो शब्द कहें तो मर्यादा विहीन.
मोदी.
शक्ति के उपासक.
370.
400 पार.
और आखिरी
स्मृति.
माँ.
Ladies and gentlemen, Smriti Irani ji.
How lovely. A huge round of applause once again for Minister Smriti Irani at her oratorical best, and also daring Rahul Gandhi. Thank you so much, ma'am. Really lovely. Thank you. Anand, Rubika, thank you so much as well. Well, she is known for a fine oratory. Smriti Irani there also daring Rahul Gandhi to contest from his old battleground of Amethi. Clearly, politics is heating ahead of the Lok Sabha polls. She also said that the Prime Minister is an emotion. He's someone who has given a national ambition to the people of the country. That was Smriti Irani speaking to my colleagues Anand and Rubina. We have another very, very interesting session coming up, more on geopolitics, foreign policy. I'd request everyone to be kindly seated, please. We're just about to begin our next session for the evening. So let's begin. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's a conversation that we're going to be having with a scholar, an expert, who is often described as one of the most influential realists of his generation. He has also been one of the most famous critics of American foreign policy since the end of the Cold War. His stand of thought, which is sometimes described as quote-unquote defensive realism, holds that the need for security and ultimately for survival makes states to be aggressive power maximizers. States do not cooperate except during temporary alliances, but constantly seek to diminish their competitors' power and to enhance their very own. He has also spread no punches in arguing just why Ukraine crisis is the West's fault and why the United States and its European allies actually share most of the responsibility for the ongoing crisis. Please welcome John Joseph Mearsheimer, political scientist, international relations scholar, and also the R. Wendell Harrison Distinguished Service Professor at the University of Chicago. He joins us in conversation with News18's Palki Sharma for a session titled Geocalculus, Cracking the Code. Let's have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our esteemed guest. Thank you, Palki. Over to you.
Thank you, and good evening to all of you. We live in exciting but dangerous times geopolitically. There are two wars and many internal conflicts that are going on across the world. There are new alliances being forged and old ones being dismantled. And in this context, we're exploring a very important and complex question. What is the driving force of decision-making today? Is it realism? Is it power? Is it morals? Or is it a mix of everything? Also, where does India stand in this mix? What role will India play in the looming conflicts of this century? We look forward to exploring all of this with you, Professor Mearsheimer. Welcome to Bharat Rising. My first question to you is, what would you call the current world order? How would you describe it? Would you say it's still unipolar, with America in the lead? Would you say it's truly multipolar? How would you see this?
I believe that the world today is multipolar. Most of you in the audience came of age during the unipolar moment, which ran from roughly 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, up until about 2017. And the United States was, of course, the most powerful state on the planet by far during the unipolar moment. But by 2017, roughly 2017, Vladimir Putin had rescued Russia from the dead, and Russia was back as a great power. And China, because of all of the economic growth that had taken place during the 1990s and the first 17 years of the 21st century, was also a great power. So we're now in a system where there are three great powers: the United States, China, and Russia.
What about India? Where do you see India standing in this? And do you see India then as a bridging power, trying to bridge different ideological camps? Or is India just tilting things in the direction that's suited?
Well, I would say, first of all, India is an aspiring great power. The two building blocks of power in the international system are population size and wealth. You need a great deal of wealth, and you need a lot of people to qualify as a great power. The reason that China was not considered a great power until recently was because it didn't have the wealth. It certainly had the population size. What China now has is population size plus wealth. What India has for sure is population size, and it's growing wealthier and wealthier by the year. But I think, according to most accounts, it has not yet reached the point where it qualifies as a great power. Nevertheless, there is no question that India is a major power, and it is, in a very important way, caught in between those three great powers, because India has all sorts of potential problems with China, mainly revolving around the border between those two countries. India has very close relations with both Russia and the United States, and from the American point of view, that causes problems because the Americans don't want India to have good relations with Russia. But of course, from India's point of view, it makes good sense to have good relations with Russia. So relations between India and the United States have been somewhat testy. They've been very good in terms of relations with Russia. And the question of China is, I think, a looming problem for India. But nevertheless, the world that India operates in now is very complicated, and India is going to have a complicated task moving forward dealing with this world.
Is another way of looking at it that India is best poised to make to make the most of this complicated situation because India can talk to and do business with all camps?
I think at some point India will have to make some hard choices. I think the most interesting question is what happens between India, China, and the United States. My sense is that China will continue to grow more powerful, that it will build a potent blue water navy, and it will try to project power into the Persian Gulf, and it will therefore move through the Indian Ocean, and this will not make the Indians happy and will push the Americans and the Indians closer together.
In the event of a conflict between India and China, do you think Russia will be forced to take a side?
I think if there were a conflict between India and China, the Russians would do everything they could to sit on the fence and to not get committed. The Russians have no interest in having bad relations with either China or India. So if there was, and hopefully there will not be, a conflict between India and China, I think the Russians would do everything they could to stay far away.
You've said in the past that great powers will always seek hegemony or dominance over others. You say that India is an aspiring great power. When it does become a great power, do you think I would do the same? Because I've seen any or any of the rhetoric that comes with these hegemonic tendencies?
My basic view of international politics is that the ideal situation is to be a hegemon in your region of the world and to make sure that there's no other hegemon on the planet. And I basically argue that the United States is the only regional hegemon in the world. It's a hegemon in the Western Hemisphere. And the United States goes to great lengths to make sure that no other country dominates its region the way we dominate the Western Hemisphere. And that's why in the 20th century, we played a key role in putting Imperial Germany, Imperial Japan, Nazi Germany, and the Soviet Union on the scrap heap of history. The United States does not tolerate peer competitors. At the same time, I believe it makes eminently good sense for China to dominate Asia. I think that as China grows more powerful economically, it will try to dominate Asia. And I think from China's point of view, that makes good sense. From America's point of view, it does not make good sense. And certainly from India's point of view, it does not make good sense for China to dominate Asia. Just one final point. I would argue that if India were to grow more powerful than China, and the Chinese economy were to falter, and India's economy was to take off, and India looked like it could dominate Asia, it would try to dominate Asia. Not because of Indian culture or Indian politics, because that's just the way great power politics work. The best way to survive in the international system is to be really powerful.
Interesting. Let's talk about the Ukraine war now. And you've accused the West of poking the Russian bear. It's been 2 years. It's a frozen conflict. No side is making much headway. And Putin has won a record 5th term in power. How do you see this war ending? And what do you think the West should do? Should they stop military aid to Ukraine?
I believe that it's actually not a frozen conflict. I believe that the Russians